Fans were thrilled over Emmerdale's special episode, focusing on Graham Foster and Kim and Joe Tate. While one moment left some annoyed. Wednesday's visit to the Dales saw Joe and Kim confront Graham over his fake death. The character was killed off in a whodunit on the ITV soap in 2020, but a few weeks ago, during the Rave crossover, Graham returned very much alive. Tuesday's cliffhanger saw Graham head back to home farm for the first time in 6 years, shocking Kim and Joe with his true fate. On Wednesday, we saw Joe and Kim struggling to process the truth, with plenty of questions. As Joe ended up throwing up from the shock of his father figure, the man he's grieved for 6 years, being alive, Graham tried to explain himself. Joe didn't want to hear it though, furious that his life had been torn apart for no reason. Of course, Joe proceeded to suggest Graham's death was to blame for every sick thing he has done since 2020, including him stealing a kidney from his uncle Caleb Milligan, and him now blackmailing the Sugdens. His latest plot has seen him target Maura Dingle too, leading to her arrest. Joe sobbed as he screamed at Graham for abandoning him. He explained with detail the grief he had experienced and how it had shaped him into the villain he was today. Fans didn't know whether to feel sorry for Joe or not, but what they did know was that it was some of the best and most emotional scenes the soap had aired in a while. Viewers were quick to praise actors Andrew Scarborough and Ned Porteous for their performances, with one fan even calling it the best episode in years. A viewer said online, "Wow, Andrew and Ned were absolutely incredible in tonight's Emmerdale. You could see just how much Graham coming back has impacted Joe. Hats off to Emmerdale for pulling this off." Another fan said, "They were phenomenal. I loved how we didn't just get to see how Graham being back is affecting Joe, but also that we now know how his death was revealed to Joe and how it nearly killed him. I can't wait to see what happens next." A third fan wrote, "Tonight's Kim, Joe and Graham three-hander is sensational," as a further post read, "Can't lie, today's hashtag Emmerdale with Kim, Joe and Graham was so good." Another fan said, "They were phenomenal. I loved how we didn't just get to see how Graham being back is affecting Joe, but also that we now know how his death was revealed to Joe and how it nearly killed him. I can't wait to see what happens next." A third fan wrote, "Tonight's Kim, Joe and Graham three-hander is sensational," as a further post read, "Can't lie, today's hashtag Emmerdale with Kim, Joe and Graham was so good." As drama continues to unfold in the Yorkshire Dales, the Mirror has launched its very own Emmerdale WhatsApp community, where you'll get all the latest breaking news, secrets, and spoilers delivered straight to your phone. Users must download or already have WhatsApp on their phones to join in. All you have to do to join is click on this link, select Join Chat, and you're in. We may also send you stories from other titles across the Reach group. We will also treat our community members to special offers, promotions, and adverts from us and our partners. If you don't like our community, you can check out anytime you like. To leave our community, click on the name at the top of your screen and choose Exit Group. If you're curious, you can read our privacy notic. Back in 2020, Graham Foster's shocking murder rocked the village. The whodunit storyline had all the ingredients of classic soap drama: multiple suspects, buried secrets, and devastating consequences. When Graham was confirmed dead, Joe Tate's world collapsed. Joe had lost more than a friend. He had lost a father figure. For 6 long years, he believed Graham had been taken from him. The grief hardened him, warped him, shaped him. And now Graham was standing in front of him, very much alive. The Rave crossover shock. The twist began a few weeks earlier during the explosive Rave crossover event, a special collaboration between Emmerdale and Coronation Street that stunned audiences. In a moment that sent social media into meltdown, Graham was revealed to be alive. It wasn't a ghost. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't a flashback. He had faked his death. And he was back. Tuesday's cliffhanger saw Graham return to home farm for the first time in 6 years. The imposing estate, once the center of his power, became the stage for one of the most emotionally charged confrontations the show has delivered in recent memory. Kim was stunned. Joe was destroyed. The vomit that divided viewers. Wednesday's episode wasted no time diving into the emotional fallout. Joe's reaction wasn't subtle or stoic. It was physical. Overwhelmed by shock, rage and grief colliding all at once, Joe ran to the bathroom and vomited. For some viewers, the moment was painfully real, a raw depiction of trauma resurfacing. For others, it felt almost too visceral, too uncomfortable. Social media lit up. Some praised the realism. Others questioned whether it crossed a line. But no one could deny one thing. It was unforgettable. You abandoned me. When Joe finally confronted Graham, the grief poured out in waves. He didn't just shout. He sobbed. He screamed that Graham had abandoned him. That the man he loved had left him to mourn a lie. That every twisted choice he'd made since 2020 had roots in that loss. Joe even attempted to shift responsibility, claiming Graham's death was to blame for every dark act he'd committed since. From stealing a kidney from Caleb Milligan to blackmailing the Sugdens and orchestrating Moira Dingle's arrest. It was deflection. It was desperation. It was heartbreak. "You nearly killed me," Joe cried, recounting the moment he learned of Graham's supposed death 6 years earlier. The scene stripped him bare. For once, Joe wasn't the calculating villain. He was a broken boy. Kim Tate, the queen shaken. While Joe unraveled, Kim Tate processed the bombshell in her own way. Kim has faced betrayals before. She survived prison, family feuds and corporate warfare. But this was personal. Graham had been her confidant, her fixer, her protector. His death changed the balance of power at home farm. His return threatened to destabilize everything again. Kim's reactions were quieter than Joe's. Sharp glances, steely pauses, controlled fury simmering beneath her composure. But make no mistake, the Queen of the Dales was shaken. Performances that stunned fans. As the credits rolled, one thing became clear. Viewers were blown away. Online, praise poured in for actors Andrew Scarborough, Graham, and Ned Porteous, Joe. "Wow, Andrew and Ned were absolutely incredible in tonight's Emmerdale," one fan wrote. "You could see just how much Graham coming back has impacted Joe. Hats off to Emmerdale for pulling this off." Another said, "They were phenomenal. I loved how we didn't just get to see how Graham being back is affecting Joe, but also that we now know how his death was revealed to Joe and how it nearly killed him. I can't wait to see what happens next." A third declared, "Tonight's Kim, Joe and Graham three-hander is sensational." Some even went further, calling it the best episode in years. That's no small statement for a show that has been on air for more than 5 decades. Sympathy or accountability. But amid the praise, debate simmered. Joe tried to blame Graham for everything he'd done since 2020. The stolen kidney. The blackmail. The manipulation. The vendettas. Was Graham's fake death the catalyst for Joe's descent into villainy? Or was Joe simply using it as an excuse? Fans were split. Some argued that trauma changes people. That losing a father figure so violently could fracture anyone's moral compass. Others weren't buying it. "Grief doesn't make you steal organs," one viewer commented bluntly. The episode didn't offer easy answers. Instead, it presented a complex portrait of blame, grief, and accountability. The writing that took a risk. The decision to resurrect Graham Foster was bold. Soap operas are no strangers to fake deaths, but pulling one off convincingly after 6 years is a high-wire act. One misstep, and it feels ridiculous. One wrong tone, and it becomes parody. Instead, the writers leaned into emotional realism. They didn't play it for shock value alone. They played it for consequences. Joe's trauma, Kim's fury, Graham's guilt. Every reaction felt earned. The Mirror's Emmerdale community. As the drama continues to unfold in the Yorkshire Dales, fans are scrambling for spoilers and updates. The Mirror has even launched its own Emmerdale WhatsApp community, promising breaking news, secrets, and insider information delivered straight to fans' phones. It's a sign of just how invested viewers have become in this storyline. When a soap plot can dominate online conversations for days, you know it has struck a nerve. What happens next? Graham's explanation is still incomplete. Why did he fake his death? Who helped him? What was he protecting or running from? And perhaps most importantly, can Joe ever forgive him? The return has reopened wounds that never properly healed. It has destabilized Home Farm's fragile power structure. It has forced characters and viewers to re-examine the past 6 years through a new lens. Every scheme Joe executed, every enemy he made, every life he disrupted. Would things have unfolded differently if Graham had stayed? Or was Joe always destined for darkness? A masterclass in three-hander drama. Episodes focusing tightly on 3 characters, often called three-handers, are risky. There's nowhere to hide. No subplot to cut away to. No comedic relief to soften tension. This one delivered. The claustrophobic setting of Home Farm amplified every raised voice. Every tear. Every silence. It felt theatrical. Intimate. Almost intrusive. And that's exactly why it worked. The moment that lingers. Long after the episode ended, one image stayed with viewers. Joe on his knees sobbing. Not the villain. Not the manipulator. Just a man grieving a loss that never happened, and grappling with the damage it caused. Whether audiences forgive him or not remains to be seen. But for one night, they saw his humanity. Why this episode matters. Soap operas survive on twists, but they thrive on emotion. This episode reminded fans why they fell in love with the genre in the first place. It wasn't just about who killed who. It was about how loss reshapes identity, how secrets corrode relationships, how even the strongest characters can break. For Emmerdale, it was a statement episode, a reminder that after decades on air, it can still surprise, still devastate, still divide.